Welcome back. In the previous video, we have understood about how to create a basic Spring Boot project using Spring Initializer. Today, we're going to explore how to create a basic API using Spring Boot. It's going to be a Hello World API, and you're going to see the text being returned by the server. So let's dive in. So here's a basic file structure of the project that is loaded in Visual Studio Code. Here you can see all the pom.xml files, the scripting, Maven scripting, and the source folder. What we're concerned about is the source folder. So we have the main Java and the package as well as the artifact folder inside. This is your main class. So if you want to run this application, this is where you run it. You run this class and the entire Spring Boot application starts up. So basically what we want to do is that when we spin up the server and when we host it in a port, we want a particular URL mapping to this port to come to a specific function. What I mean by that is, suppose there's another function. If I hit a URL, I need this function to execute and I want it to return something. Let me show you by an example. So, in order to create a controller, so a controller is an endpoint where your request comes in. So, in order to create a controller, we do that by just having a separate package for controllers. So mention controllers, right? And I can have my first controller. Say I'm going to define my Hello World controller inside. So Hello World controller. So this is a normal type casing for Java. You write it in camel casing. So our class is defined over here. Now you have to tell Spring that this is a controller class. So this is a REST controller class, which means that any request that is being sent to the server comes here. So we use that by annotations. So annotations tell Spring that this class is a REST controller. So we've annotated it as a REST controller. We also have to give it a direction, so a URL, a mapping, right? We need to map the class and tell it that if there's any request that's coming in this specific URL, I want it to come to this class. So that's why I will put in at request mapping, and I'll just mention the URL that I want to come to. Then I'll define a function. So I'll define a function public. It returns string get hello world. It does not take in any input, but however, it returns something. It returns hello world. Okay. Now, if the request comes to hello world, I want this function to execute and return hello world. But how do I tell Spring that? Basically, in order to do that, I annotate this function with get mapping. So get mapping, okay, is basically an annotation that tells Spring that whenever this specific URL is hit, okay, whenever I hit hello world path in my URL, I need this function to execute and the result of this function to be displayed and sent. So this basically it. So this here you defined a REST controller. You told it that it must listen to all the URL paths from the slash. And if there's any request to slash hello world, I want this function to execute, and whatever it returns, I want it to show it on the screen. So now let's run the application. Now, remember as I told you that this is the entry point for your Spring application. So when we run this class, the entire Spring application spins up and the entire server spins up as well. So all we have to do is, in this case, I have Java extension. So all we have to do is run main and click on run main, and the Spring application is starting. It's currently scanning and it's starting. Let's give it a moment. I would highly recommend to install this extension called Spring Extension Pack, which is basically a set of tools that can automatically guide you with the syntax, and it does auto import features. So I find this really helpful in building these applications quickly. So we've encountered an error. So the error is that the port 8080 was already in use. Maybe this port might have been used by some other applications. So all we have to do in case of such conflicts is that we have to go to your applications.properties, which is where I define my configurations, and just modify server.port is equal to 8081. Say I want to host on port 8081 because 8080 is busy. So all I have to do is set the server.port parameter to 8081, and the server will spin up on 8081 instead of 8080. So we can avoid that conflict. So I'm just running the server again, and hopefully this time we will not have a conflict. It's spinning up, and we do not. Okay, 8081 is, yeah, it started on 8081. We do not have any conflicts. So let me just go to a browser, okay, and let me go to localhost. So that's where my server is host. My server is currently running on 8081, so I'll go to localhost 8081 slash hello world. Okay, so when I go to this path, that exact function that I've defined will run, and it'll give me hello world. So you can clearly see hello world being returned. So what's happening is that whenever I hit hello world path, the server is telling that, okay, so I have a request coming in. It's coming in with the slash path and also the slash hello world path. So it knows to execute this function and get its return value and display it back on the browser. Like it sends it back to the client. So this is a basic hello world with Spring. In the next video, we'll see how to make a simple to-do list application using Spring. Build. If you found this tutorial helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next video. Stay